Within the laid-back and peaceful state of California, a war rages on. Two groups, the Mongols M.C. and the Mexican Mafia, battle for supremacy, causing a stir in the criminal underworld on the West Coast. Ruben Cavazos, the president of the Mongols, leads the charge against the Mexican Mafia in this violent conflict. Violence escalates as the Mongols and Mexican Mafia vie for dominance and control over lucrative criminal activities in the Golden State. But where do these bikers get the courage to mess with a mafia? The Mongols' story begins in the 1960s in Montebello, California. Like most motorcycle clubs, their origin begins with ex-vets from the Vietnam War. All they want is to belong, and for them, being part of a motorcycle club gave them that sense of camaraderie. The original members tried to join the Hells Angels, but the Hells Angels turned them away because of their Hispanic roots, so the only choice was to create their own Hispanic club, and so the Mongols M.C. was born. Why the name, I hear you ask? It was inspired by the Mongol Empire. The empire leader is Genghis Khan. This empire was a very well-disciplined, organized, and fearless group of riders who took over Eurasia in the 1200s. The 1970s saw a change in the motorcycling world. Motorcycle clubs became feared, so the American Motorcycle Club, AMC, wanted to give them a label. The AMC called them the One Percenter. This One Percenter group quickly gained a reputation for their hard-nosed approach to riding and their strict code of loyalty, honor, respect among its members. The Mongols were at the forefront of this movement when they first started off as a ragtag collection of riders in Los Angeles. Led by Vietnam veterans who had experienced life on the battlefield, they soon developed into something more than just another motorcycle club. It became a tightly organized unit run with the same regimented nature and discipline found in military forces. In no time at all, chapters began springing up across California. From San Diego, Bakersfield, Long Beach, to San Gabriel Valley, with 14 in total. The club quickly grew rapidly throughout the 1971 to 1972 period. With each passing year came greater notoriety. Stories about wild parties thrown by Mongols or daring exploits filtered out until finally being acknowledged as part of AMC's One Percenter clubs in 1974. For the law-abiding motorcycle rider, this might be a sign of danger. For the Mongols, it's like a crowing. Today, with approximately 2,000 full Patchers members worldwide, the Mongol Motorcycle Club is still going strong despite whatever obstacles may come along its way. Despite this growth, however, they are still not part of what's known as the Big Four, a group composed of Hells Angels M.C., Outlaws M.C., Bandidos M.C., and Pagans M.C., who have gained notoriety due to their criminal activities all over the globe. But that doesn't mean the Mongols are any less dangerous, as drug trafficking, violence, extortion, and money laundering is a way of life for these notorious bikers, and why they are known as a One Percenter. As they grew, their trademark logo became a symbol of fear. Seeing a Mongol patch meant that things were about to get ugly fast. Eventually, enough was enough, and the government stepped in with an unprecedented move. They banned wearing their logo altogether. It was a bold decision, but one that wasn't taken lightly by these outlaws. The Mongols weren't going down without a fight, though. They appealed the ruling in court and managed to have it reversed. But what caused the tension between the Mongols and the Mexican Mafia? Why would a Chicano gang mess with the Mexican Mafia? As a result of the new leadership under Ruben Cavazos, aka Doc, tensions began between the Mongols and the Mexican Mafia. Up until then, their relationship was reasonable. Like many of his predecessors, he wanted to expand the reach of the gang by recruiting more members from outside their ranks. However, these new recruits happened to be mostly Surenos. This caused considerable unrest among many of the Mongols, who blamed Doc for allowing too much infiltration into their rank. Why? Doc wanted to include Sureno street gang members in Southern California. The Surenos wanted to join forces with them and become part of their special enforcer squad. At first, the Mongols weren't sure if it was such a good idea. After all, these Vatos locos had sworn allegiance to the Mexican Mafia prison gang, not exactly ideal allies. But after some persuasion on behalf of the Vatos locos, they decided to give it a shot. The Vatos joined up with the Mongols and started wearing a black and white ELA enforcer patch on front of their cuts as proof that they belonged. It was no small commitment either. This was blood in, blood out territory now. Not only did it mean showing absolute loyalty towards one another, but also taking responsibility for any wrongdoings committed by fellow ELA enforcers, or even themselves. But that wasn't all. Things came to a head at Harrah's Casino in Laughlin, Nevada in 2002, when Doc and former President Roger Pinney were ambushed by Hell's Angels during a peace negotiation meeting that had been set up by Doc himself. Despite putting up an admirable fight against overwhelming odds, neither leader survived unscathed from what became known as the shootout. In its wake lay much resentment toward Doc for failing to protect President Pinney, and this only served to further strain relations between the two gangs. Tensions continued mounting until finally one day word spread that the Mexican Mafia had made an ultimatum: kill Doc, or else they would take matters into their own hands. The message sent shockwaves through both gangs as each member wondered how they should respond on behalf of their respective leaders. With so much uncertainty surrounding them and no clear direction ahead, all anyone could do was wait and see if cooler heads would prevail before yet another tragedy struck again. Tensions were rising again between the two gangs, the Mexican Mafia and the Mongols. It all started when a known code of conduct of the Mexican Mafia was violated. What was the code conduct that was broken? The Sureno Code of Conduct. In response to his transgression, they placed a bounty on his head for anyone who wanted to take him out. The name is Ernesto Sanchez. It was January 2004, and 5 Mongols had met up with a group of members from the Bassett Grand Street gang at a motel room in Arcadia, northeast of Los Angeles. The purpose of their meeting was to buy methamphetamine wholesale for retail resale. After the deal concluded, the Bassett gang extended an invitation for the Mongols to join them in celebration. After all, it was a job well done. 4 of the Mongols decided to take up this offer and headed back towards the motel room that they had used as their base of operations. Unbeknownst to them, however, one member on their security team was a former Sureno who had been placed on the Mexican Mafia's notorious green light list. Members within the Bassett gang quickly spotted this Mongol outcast. The Surenos were obligated to kill him if they ever got a chance, something Ernesto seemed aware of as he stood his ground against the Bassetts despite knowing his fate should things get out of hand. When confronted, Ernesto refused to back down even though everyone expected him to leave. Ernesto went to freshen up but instead came out wearing a pistol. Ernesto considered himself to be a Mongol, so he had no other choice but to fight. Unfortunately, that meant the Bassett gang members retaliated. Ernesto drew his pistol and tragically lost his life in the struggle, while another Mongol who stayed behind was badly injured, and 2 more ran away rather than fight for their brother. The remaining Mongols held court afterwards for those who fled and punished them accordingly for cowardice. Yet there was still sadness amongst them at having lost one of their brothers due to such unforeseen circumstances. But it didn't end there. It was January 10th, 2004, in the city of Rosemead. The San Gabriel Valley had been the home to many gangs for years, and today was no different. In a small motel just off Main Street, members of the Sangra Sureno gang had set up a methamphetamine lab in one of the rooms. This same week there was also a Mongol motorcycle run going on, and several Mongols had checked into the same motel only rooms away from where the meth lab was situated. One Mongol, hailing from the San Jose, Norteno area, happened to walk past the open meth lab room and started asking questions about what exactly was going on inside it. Soon enough, verbal confrontations began between him and some of those involved in the lab. The situation went south quickly when word got out that Los Angeles deputy sheriff's patrol units were nearby, at which point all efforts shifted towards breaking down their operation as quickly as possible before being caught red-handed by law enforcement officials. Car after car filled up with drugs and equipment, until eventually nothing else remained inside that tiny motel room, or so they thought. Unconcerned by warnings given by fellow gang members, this now infamous Mongol decided to confront them once more, in the open space, except this time he claimed not only to be a member of their rival Nortenos group, but an affiliate too. But the Sangra Sureno didn't believe him, and things escalated even further than expected, resulting in a gunfight and death. Thankfully, however, no other casualties occurred during these events, though justice ultimately still found its way through responding deputies who managed to catch hold of anyone attempting escape. Unfortunately, it wasn't long before things got worse. It was March of 2004 when the Mexican Mafia, otherwise known as La IMA, called a meeting with all the local Sureno gangs. They had grown increasingly frustrated at the level of disrespect they felt they were receiving from the Mongols and wanted to make it clear that they weren't going to tolerate any more nonsense. The Mafia estimated that Surenos had sustained over $20,000 worth of losses in drug revenue and personal damages due to the Mongols' behavior and demanded that something be done about it. The boss made it very clear, unless the Mongols paid for these damages in full, Laim would consider them just another LA street gang and place them on their notorious green light list, meaning every single one of its members could then become targets for murder by other Surenos both inside and outside prison walls. Needless to say, this caused quite a stir among all those present. No one wanted to see what would happen if Laim's demands went unmet. In response, some suggested finding other ways for compensating, while others argued against giving in to threats like this entirely. Either way, though, everyone was aware that whatever happened next could have huge ramifications. It was April of 2004, and the Mongols had made it known that they would not pay the money. It was bold to refuse, but they were determined to stand their ground. So much so that the Mongols threatened the Mexican Mafia. How? A Mexican Mafia member was driving his family when suddenly a biker rolled up and stopped near him at a traffic light. He made a threat. "See how easy it would be to hurt you or your family?" and promptly sped away. The aggression displayed by this mysterious figure didn't go unnoticed. Later that same night, near La Mirada Sheriff's Academy, which lay very close by, another figure dressed exactly like before parked his rice rocket outside of Mongol tattoo shop just moments before closing time. He then entered inside and drew out what appeared to be a pistol before unloading several shots into those present, killing its owner instantly, while patrons scrambled for cover, trying desperately to return fire, but ultimately failing due to their assailant already making a good escape on his two-wheeled steed. Fox 11. News reporter Chris Blatchford was covering this story. Dozens of members had turned in their cuts and abandoned their membership because of this fight. The green light was on the Mongols, and every Sureno was under orders to kill them on sight. It seemed that war between the two rival gangs was inevitable, until Blatchford featured an unidentified Mongol shot caller on his Fox undercover news program. The Mongol was in disguise, of course. The Mexican Mafia representative contacted Blatchford shortly after the interview aired and asked him to arrange a meeting between the two parties. After some negotiation, both sides agreed to meet at a neutral location and eventually reached an agreement that no more violence would take place between them, averting what could have been a full-scale war. But did it end there? The Eam Rice rocket hitman responsible for starting this whole mess was later identified and arrested, but there were suspicions that he might cooperate with law enforcement, which prompted the Surenos to stage a riot in LA County Jail as a distraction while they attempted to murder him inside one of its exercise yards. Deputies Javier Clift, along with several other deputies, charged into action and managed to protect the victim from being killed by his assailants just in time. The bad blood between these two powerful entities would linger throughout Los Angeles for years after this event took place.